The guy who ultimately replaced Alex Smith in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, drafted 4 years ago this month with the clear understanding that after one more season with Alex Smith, then Mahomes would become the starting quarterback. Here he is meeting with reporters today at the opening of the Chiefs' offseason program, talking about the surgery to repair the turf toe that he had in his big left toe. Here's Mahomes.
I mean, I think I'm progressing well. I think I'm ahead of schedule myself. I mean, obviously we're trying to be cautious and not push me out there too soon. But I'm doing what I can. I've gotten out of the boot finally. It took forever. And now I'm trying to get back on the field and get that stuff working. And so I'm sure they'll keep me along that same pathway to I can be able to hopefully do some stuff by the end of the offseason.
Yeah, bye-bye to the boot. We saw the picture on Easter Sunday with his family. The boot raised a lot of eyebrows. By Thursday of that week, out of the boot when he was in the product placement shots at Augusta for his deal with Adidas. So it wasn't entirely clear whether the boot was permanently gone or it was just shed long enough to take the pictures in whatever the new offering is from Adidas that they want people to buy. Hey, they got 2 free mentions here by virtue of that. But look, no reason to think he won't be ready to go. The bigger question is, can he avoid it in the future? Because will he have to run around all year long like he had to run around all year long this year, to the point where eventually a ligament in your big toe in either foot is going to get strained and going to get torn and going to need to be surgically repaired?
Well, yeah, and I think that's something that the Chiefs clearly have to solve. They've been working to try and solve it on their offensive line, trying to get guys who can help protect Patrick Mahomes. They went after Trent Williams. That didn't quite work out for their left tackle situation, but they were able to bring in Joe Thuney. That, I think, is an upgrade at guard. You know, they also have brought in Kyle Long from retirement. That should maybe be an upgrade at guard, depending on how good he is in shape and all that. But they still have to figure out who their left tackle is going to be. And it's not just who their left tackle is going to be to start. They got to figure out who their backup left tackle is going to be too. Because, look, that's why Patrick Mahomes had to run around for nearly 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage in the Super Bowl, is because their backup left tackle, and really it was, I think, the third left tackle at that point, or whatever combination of offensive line they had to do, it just wasn't good enough at that point. So whenever you have something like that, depth is extremely important. And it's why some teams have been able to withstand injuries and be successful as they go along. Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest people to ever throw a football. Look at what he does. It's incredible. Every single throw, sometimes you just kind of drop your jaw. But at the same time, if you can't protect him, that's going to be a problem. So the Chiefs definitely still need to solve that offensive line issue.
Yeah, they got to have a page or two in the playbook, too, where they keep a tight end in to block, keep a running back in to knock down a defensive lineman who gets around the edge and is coming after Patrick Mahomes, because especially with an injured toe, he can't run circles around guys the way that he did without the injured toe. One way to keep him healthy, improve the offensive line. Here's an exchange from the media availability today regarding the offensive line. He was asked about it. He gave an answer. Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of great guys in that offensive line room. Guys that are ready to compete, guys that played last year, and then guys that have a lot of experience coming in. And that breeds competition, and you love that. That's in every single room in this locker room is competition. You're going to go out there, compete, and try to earn your way to earn in a spot and to find a way to be the best player you can be to try to get us to the Super Bowl.
Based on the story last year of Andy and Brett reaching out to you during the first round of the draft, do you feel like you'll have a bit of a say come this year with regards to how to, keep fortifying that offensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I try to give my input on everything I can in this building of trying to help out the team in the best way possible. But at the end of the day, I trust in Veach and I trust in Coach Reed to make the right decision for the betterment of the team. And so if they ask me, I'll give my input and do that different type of stuff. But they have a pretty good track record of getting great players in this building.
Yeah, they do. They drafted him. Yes. Yeah. That would have been great. That would have been an ultimate moment if he would have said, by virtue of the fact that I'm standing here talking to you, they know what they're doing and they know how to do it. But they definitely, Miles, need to focus some of that on the offensive line and depth along the offensive line. And they did try to get Trent Williams. Didn't work. And, we thought super team. We thought between the Bucs and the Chiefs, super team, There were a couple of guys they wanted to get that they didn't get, and they'd have loved to have had Trent Williams. But there's options in the draft, and they're going to need to get guys in and coach them up and get them ready to go. With Mahomes, you don't have to be Anthony Munoz in his prime because he will buy plenty of time on his own, but it would be nice if he didn't have to, given what happened last year with that foot.
Nice Anthony Munoz drop there, Mike. Yeah, he probably doesn't have to be Anthony Munoz in his prime. I don't really remember any Anthony Munoz's career, but, that's okay. I think that what they're doing, though, with the offensive line is going to be interesting because they pick at 31st, right? And there is some good depth, apparently, with this offensive tackle and offensive line class. So they're going to have options. Now, who exactly those options are going to be remains to be seen, especially when you're picking that low in the first round. But I think we saw last year that they made the most of that low first round pick by getting a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And when you're picking that low and you have a team that has been to the Super Bowl for the last 2 years, you understand that there are only certain needs that you have. And we always talk about picking the best player available and all that. But I think it's more important to pick a guy who fits what you do, and you know that, especially when you're getting that guy in the first round, you can plug them in and they can play. And you're going to have that guy for 5 years, at least in theory, because of that fifth-year option. So because of all of that, I think that they're going to be able to pick somebody who's going to be able to come in there and help them. Whether it's at the offensive line or otherwise, we'll have to see. But at least looking at it right now, you'd have to think they're thinking offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know from 4 years ago, they're not bashful about trading up to get a guy they love. They went from 27 to 10 to get Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 draft. And like many other teams, the fact that there will be a run on quarterbacks out of the gates could be as many as 6 taken before the Chiefs pick at number 31. That means more players that fit their needs get pushed down the board. And the Chiefs are in that zone where they could trade out of that spot, get some extra picks, and instead of rolling the dice on the best available offensive lineman at 31, get an extra lottery ticket, get more depth, get 2 bodies for the price of 1 by giving that 31st pick to somebody who maybe wants to come up to take what would be the 6th quarterback in the draft. One more cut from Mahomes, and this relates to the motivation that he has acquired, not through winning, but through losing, specifically the Super Bowl 31-9 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's Mahomes.
The first year that I started, we lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. I mean, you have to let that stuff motivate you to get better each and every day. And so you look back at that, and we were able to find a way to kind of flip a switch and make ourselves better and make a run at the Super Bowl the next year. And you have to try to have that same mentality of knowing that we've been there 2 years in a row now. We've won one, we lost one. We have to find a way to get back and try to win it.
Yeah, look, you find motivation in your success. You find maybe even more in your failure. And you think about the run of greatness this team has had. 3 straight AFC championships, 2 straight Super Bowls. And I think it is that shattering that comes from losing at the highest level that allows you to go back to 0-0 and start building again with a goal in mind. It's always hard to say, we just climbed the mountain. What are we going to do this year? We're going to climb the mountain. You mean the mountain we just climbed? Yeah, you're going to go climb it again. When you've been thrown back to the bottom, that gives you a little more of a kick. And they are going to be more driven this year. And Mahomes, learning from that, tormented by that. It gets into the whole Trevor Lawrence discussion Sims and I had today, but tormented by adversity to the point where it drives you to try to achieve more greatness. And it sounds like that's what's going to happen for Mahomes.
Well, the great ones, and this is probably something you discussed with Sims because you wrote it too, the great ones seem to have that screw loose, and they seem to find motivation in even the slightest of slights, right? And this one is not really slight of a slight. It's a pretty big thing that happened. They went to the Super Bowl, they tried to run it back, they almost did, but they came up short, and they lost in a way that I don't think anybody anticipated that they would have lost, right? 31-9 is certainly not a score that I was thinking that we would see from the Buccaneers and also the Chiefs. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes is certainly very motivated to get back to that level. And he said that, he's watched the Super Bowl a couple of times. It still stings. Tyrann Mathieu kind of said the same sort of thing. He's watched it 5-6 times, since that Super Bowl, that game, and that it hurts every single time. But what Mathieu said I thought was interesting, and it's that, this is the kind of loss that can sometimes derail a team. And so they have to use it as fuel, but they also have to put it behind them in order to make sure that they can get back to that level, because every team every year is different. So you can certainly use that loss as motivation, but you also have to realize, like, yeah, we're still starting at zero and we've got to climb that mountain again. And, you know, we've seen it happen in recent years, right? The Patriots won in 2016, the Super Bowl, then they lost in 2017, and then they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl nobody remembers in 2018. So we've seen this happen in recent years, and it'll be interesting to see how the Chiefs do it.
Just because you would like to forget it doesn't mean that Mike, no one else remembers it.
Mike, nobody remembers that Super Bowl. They were playing Super Bowls on NFL Network a few weeks ago, and they went from the 2016 Super Bowl to the 2017 Super Bowl to the Super Bowl that the Chiefs won. Nobody remembers that Super Bowl. I thought it was great. I loved being there. Maroon 5 played at halftime. I love Maroon 5, something that most people don't actually say or admit to, but I do. So I thought it was great, but nobody remembers that Super Bowl, man.
The thing about Patrick Mahomes, because when we were talking about this, I'm thinking, here's a guy who is never going to be borderline petty about disses and slights. But, you know, I remembered when they played the Bears a couple of years ago, yes, and things were going well. 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, and he counts 10. Oh, 10? Against the guy that they drafted before him 8 spots. And then last year against the Ravens, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 4, whatever it was. Oh, it was 4, because it was the number of touchdown passes he threw, I believe. But it was also, he was the 4th best player in the NFL, according to that time filler poll that the NFL does every year. And Lamar Jackson was number 1. So he's not above finding motivation in the dumbest and most superficial and meaningless of places if it gives him that little kick in the butt. The thing is, when he shows it, it's in moments like that, and there's something kind of charming about it. He's not going to get behind a podium and whine about it. He's going to go do something about it, and then you're going to see a cheeky little reaction by him as he's making his way to the sideline after he throws another touchdown pass.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the one thing that I was thinking about, him counting on his fingers, especially that game against the Bears. And then, of course, he did it, like you said, against Lamar Jackson. Look, this is a guy who has that gene where he just takes whatever slight he can and he uses it as motivation. And that is what the greatest ones do. And the other funny thing about him is, you're saying he's not going to stand behind that podium and then start talking about exactly what he was doing. He even denied the fact that what he was doing with that Mitchell Trubisky thing with when he was picked 10th overall and Trubisky was picked 2nd. He denied that had anything to do with draft position. He's like, I don't know. I was just counting things on my fingers. Yes, sir. You are the count, because that's all you want to do. Right? No. We know what you were doing. He knows what he was doing, but he's not so petty that he's going to tell you exactly what he was doing. Maybe in 20 years or whatever it is, we'll get a documentary like we got from Michael Jordan, and he'll say all the things that, you know, who confirm all the things that we actually know about him now.
And to spin it back to Trevor Lawrence, the reality is he's yet to have anything that could be regarded as a slight, unless he wants to say, I should have won a Heisman Trophy and I'm upset about that. But he's going to be the 1st overall pick. We've known he was going to be the 1st overall pick in this draft since his true freshman season. So no one is doubting him. The only thing he can have a chip on his shoulder about is whether or not he's got a chip on his shoulder. So maybe he's starting to learn, because he kind of did have a chip on his shoulder over the weekend about the fact that people were criticizing him for not having a chip on his shoulder.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.